All right, welcome back for another episode of Two Plane Sports. Today is going to be a Who Dat video, and today is going to be over Kip Lewis. I almost said Kobe McKenzie. It's Kip Lewis, someone that we were just talking about before that we think has been kind of overlooked and has an extremely high ceiling himself. But before we get into it, we just want to announce the winner for last week. As you can tell on Brandon's board, we're giving it away to the two tickets are going to be to Daxon Kesey. I might be mispronouncing, but that's the way it's spelled, and that's the way we're interpreting it. We've been known to butcher a name or two on this podcast. So go ahead and either DM us on Twitter or send us an email, and then we'll get the tickets to you. So that means we've given away two pairs. We've got two left. So this week we're going to be giving away another pair of general admission tickets. So if you want to enter into that, you need to like the video, subscribe to the video or subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and then like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter. One of the two. I know not everyone has all of them, but if you have both, that might give you a leg up as well. So we've got one this week and we've got another one next week to give away. And just keep on watching, and then you'll end up doing the end of video challenge that Brandon will give, and you'll tell us done, and so you'll have to stick around for that. So, hit the like button, like I already said. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. If you don't want to look at Brandon, he's representing Flower Mound, Flower Mound High School right there. But so Kip Lewis, he is, I feel like, someone that has been overlooked. And he is a four-star out of Carthage, Texas, in the 2022 class, 6'1", 198 pounds, according to Sooner Sports, that they just updated the roster. So there's no guessing anymore, word on the street. It's that's how much he weighs. And so he was number 264 overall, number 25 linebacker in the class, an extremely athletic kid who played at a high level in Texas 4A football. His senior season, he had 108 tackles, 20 tackles for loss, and 6 sacks in his senior season, and that earned him an overall MVP in the district for 10-4A Division II MVP. They ended up going to the third round in the playoffs. He won a state championship in 2020, and he ended up getting hurt in 2019 and missing the playoffs. He unofficially, I feel like this is pretty cool. He unofficially visited Texas and Texas A&M, and then committed to the Sooners, and then never took another visit elsewhere. Jose, what do you think about Kip Lewis and what we're going to get?
First of all, congrats, Daxon. We're glad that you're watching the videos, and hopefully you have fun at the game and can meet up with Brandon and Brum at Ocons before, so you can all hang out. But going over to Kip, I think you said it perfectly with how underrated he's been. And I mean, it's no fault of his own. I think he just came in with the hype of Venables and everyone being so excited about Jaron Kanik, and then Kobe being such a big personality, especially on social media where he's interacting with fans all the time. He's kind of just taking a back seat because he seems like a quieter guy, especially with how social media, he's not super involved with it, which is fine. No shame in that. Not everyone's into social media. So he's kind of not really been looked at that much, at least by the fans. And definitely we need to turn that around, because I think since we've talked about the linebackers, since we did the position breakdown, talking about Jaron and then talking about Kobe over the last few weeks, we've mentioned that we think that Jaron is going to be the closest to starting out of all the freshmen, Kobe following him right behind, and then Kip still has some development. After watching more of Kip, I actually think he's a better talent than Kobe, but he's just not physically there yet. He's still just shy of 200, which isn't a bad thing, but it's not like he's blazing around the field like a Jaron Kanik. So being that light really isn't benefiting him and getting sideline to sideline any quicker. If he can add on over the next year, I think he's definitely going to redshirt because of that. If he can add on like 15 pounds and it be mostly muscle, that will propel him to another level where he's not going to have to worry about potentially people breaking a lot of tackles on him, because that is one thing that in high school he was very good at, is securing tackles, making sure the guys were going to get out, even if it was just with one hand and pulling him closer to him. He was good at that, and he was decent at coming from the edge, but I think he might be the best pass coverage linebacker in this class, and I don't think it's very close. in regards to that. I mean, Jaren's good, but I think his athleticism is what's keeping him there. Kip is just, he knows where to be, and he will make sure that, especially tight ends, aren't going to get anything big on him.
Yeah, that's a bold take, because I would have picked Jaren as the most athletic, or as the most talented coverage linebacker, just because of the athleticism and speed he has. But yeah, Kip is a guy that we've overlooked. I think he's overlooked, as Brum mentioned, kind of everywhere. But it just comes with the territory when you come in with Jaren Kanak and Kobe McKenzie, who I think we all think are going to be pretty damn good, pretty freaky. But yeah, Kip Lewis, I mean, he's over 100 tackles as a senior, as Brum mentioned, 20 tackles for loss, 6 sacks, very instinctual. He's definitely going to be a good player, a player that plays, for years to come for us. I don't know that he ever. You mentioned, Jose, you're kind of the most excited about him if he can just develop and get some more size on him, stuff like that. But I don't know that he ever starts over like Jaren Kanak or Kobe McKenzie. I think he might be like a rotational player throughout his career at Oklahoma.
I mean, I know McKenzie and, Kanak are very talented, and rightfully so, but I don't think that it would be a shock for Kip Lewis to end up starting over one of them. I mean, there are 2 to 3 linebacker spots, depending on the personnel packages. He very well could be lining up with Kobe McKenzie or Jaren Kanak or both of them, depending on the front that they're throwing out there. I do think that Kip Lewis, to some degree, is not quite as gifted as far as what his athletic, like what his build was in high school. So in order to, kind of help that out, you had to be technically sound. That's typically what happens with 3 stars and unranked kids. If you're going to be onto the field, or like a Hunter Renfro, no one really looked at him very much, but he was just always technically sound in the right spots and always made plays when it mattered most. And I think this is kind of where Kip Lewis is. He's kind of the, put your nose down, work hard, and, you'll see his play on the field. Because like you said, Jose, he's not on social media hardly at all. I mean, you'll see a random retweet or a tweet or a picture, but outside of that, he's not on posting much. I mean, maybe he is, maybe he's scrolling, but he's just not posting much himself. I do think he's gonna redshirt, because I mean, at 198 pounds, and I know it's only the end of March, so he's gonna have 4 or 5 months to really beef up over spring ball and summer ball. So he'll probably put on 5 to 10 pounds between now and then. But following his redshirt freshman year, he might start to see some playing time. I don't know how much though, but really I feel like his redshirt sophomore year is when he'll really start to crack the lineup. And just because I think the talent and potential transfers that could still come, even at the end of this upcoming season could come in. I just feel like it putting on 30 pounds for a kid that weighs 200 or even close to 40 pounds. I mean, that's 15-20% of your weight. That's a lot of weight to put on, and put it on the right way. And Schmidt will get him beefed up. But, who's to say he might be able to throw on 15 pounds this summer, and he might be ready to roll. It's just tough to say. Jose, what do you think about, do you think he plays in the first 4 games, he keeps his red shirt, or what do you think is going to happen there?
Yeah, I think he's definitely keeping his red shirt. He'll get playing time in 4 games if, one, we're rolling teams. That I think that's his best chance of getting playing time this year. But after this year, I think he'll be incorporated in specific personnel packages, especially if we're playing against a more air raid style offense. Because I think even if he's not, if you guys may not see him as the most talented player, not just you guys, but like people watching, the dude is very good at pass coverage, and he's going to be someone that is going to be important to be on the field if we're going against. I can't think of anyone in the Big 12 that just predicated on passing the ball all the time, because most of them do love to run right now. But I don't know. Let's think of if we're in the national championship or something, or a playoff game against a quarterback like Bryce Young. Even though they're going to run the ball at us a lot, probably because Alabama always has good running backs, they're going to rely on Bryce's arm, and he's going to be a linebacker that needs to be out there, especially with the tight ends that we'd be facing in big games like that, right? So I think that's where he'll come in after year 1. I don't know that he'll ever start over a guy like Jaron or Kobe, but I think he definitely has the opportunity to take time away from Kobe, especially if with more, especially in games where if we're ever down and we need to, protect, or if we're ever up by a lot and we need to protect against the pass, he'll be up there. He'll be in the field a lot more than Kobe. But I would love to see a personnel package with all three of them on the field because they all bring something different. And I think that's where it could be dangerous. If I know Brandon's super high on Jaden Rowe, if Jaden would be somewhere in the safety position in this kind of package, having Jaron kind of play kind of a roam, I guess, QB spy, and then Kobe would, I guess he would kind of be the rusher in this scenario, and Kip would be kind of there with Jaron to protect against anything shallow. I think that'd be really hard for teams to come up against because even if the quarterback ends up deciding to run, Kip's got the speed to make sure they're not taking 15 yards, for a first down or something. He'd make sure to keep him in front.
Yeah, I think going back to Rome's first question about if he'll play in the first 4 games, I think he should. I think all of these freshmen that we talk about that we're high in the future, we think Kanik has a chance this year, or Kobe this year, one of them. But the one who doesn't start this year should play in those first 4. Kip Lewis should play in those first 4. I think Jaden Rowe play in those first 4. Spears Jennings. A lot of those guys that we're pretty excited about should play in the first 4 games because we should be handling business and getting them a chance to see real life competition. So I look forward to that. I also look forward to a package, like as you mentioned, where we can put all 3 of those linebackers on the field because I do think that'd be scary. And you got to think that Brent Venables is going to have something for that just because they're all really talented, really, they're good at playing the game, and you want to put as many good players on the field as possible. So I'm sure that there will be packages in which they're all on the field. I was actually going to mention Jaden Rowe before you brought him up as somebody that could potentially hurt. He could potentially hurt, in my opinion, Kip Lewis, Jaron Kanik, or Kobe McKenzie, just because, as we've mentioned a bunch of times, he can play that linebacker spot with that size and speed that he possesses. And that can kind of dip into one of those 3's playing time. Just on the outside looking in without, having seen any of them play yet. This is just going off numbers and, their rankings and highlights and stuff that we've seen. I would think that Kip Lewis would be the one that would have his play dipped into by a Jaden Rowe of the 3. But again, none of them have played a college snap yet. So it's all to be determined for all of them. But, yeah, I think Jaden Rowe is going to put in it. He could put a strain on one of those guys' playing times, I think.
He could, but there's going to be a lot of turnover in the linebacker position because in our position group breakdown, we kind of talked about who's getting ready to graduate. And who comes to mind is David Wedde. It's a senior year. He probably will have 1 extra year, I'm assuming, with COVID. Then you think of TD Roof, a graduate transfer. Deshaun White is a 5th year as well. So you've got 3 players that are going to be gone. And, out of the 3, 2 of them are playing a lot of snaps this year. I mean, TD Roof, I think he'll get some playing time. But anyway, those 3 guys are going to be gone. And 2 guys, Shane Witter and Joseph Wedde, I think these 2 guys, if they don't take the next step this fall, they could be potential transfer portal guys because they're going to be both going in their senior season. And if they're not cracking the lineup this year, it's going to be really hard to crack the lineup next year. You give these 3 young bucks, and then you bring in some more freshmen in this upcoming recruiting cycle. I feel like they might not see a path for them to play the way that they want, or the amount that they want to. So in that scenario, even just assuming that Witter and Wedde both stay, you've got those 2 guys, Kanik, Kip Lewis, Kobe McKenzie. You've got 5 guys. Obviously, you're going to take some more freshmen coming in and maybe a transfer. Like I think that they might end up having to take a transfer, but I feel like there's going to be snaps to go around for all 3 of these guys next year. And I think, while they both might, or all 3 of them might not play a whole lot, or maybe one will play a little bit more than the other, I think by next year, the 23 season, you'll see them all playing as like a trio together. And, Kip Lewis, could it possibly be that, with him being a good open field tackler, he might not be able to, deliver the heavy blows or whatever? Could he play special teams? Could he play on the punt team this year? Maybe. I mean, he's got some decent speed. He can make open field tackles. He can cover. I don't see why he couldn't. Or do they try to keep him and keep his red shirt, which I'd like to see him keep his red shirt. But at the end of the day, if he's the best one or one of the best 11 to be on the punt team, that's what I want, because special teams have been killing OU in the last few years, ever since Beamer left. So I really think if Witter and Wedde don't take the next step, or even one of them doesn't take the next step and one of them stays and one of them goes, and you've got these 3 graduates that are graduating, there's going to be a lot of snaps that need to be filled. And I don't know exactly how often Venables is going to be rotating, but he will. But the best players are going to play most of the games. They're not going to be getting more tired running on and off the field like the last staff. But there are going to play some rotations. I really think Kip Lewis, as long as he can put on 15, 20 pounds, maybe even 30 over the next year or so, maintain that freshman or that red shirt, I really think he's going to be a great player and someone that is bought into the program. He never decommitted from the Sooners. He never took another visit, according to social media, anywhere else after he committed. He's exactly what Brent Venables wants. Once you commit, you're committed. That's it. And Kip Lewis stuck with the program, and he didn't, from the outside looking in, didn't look like he had any second thoughts.
Yeah. I think you said it multiple times, but it's really his physical development is what's holding him back at this point. Because him and Kobe are really smart linebackers, but Kobe's a little slower and Kip is just not big enough. So if they can meet in the middle and Kobe gain a little bit of speed and Kip, like you said, put on 15, 20 pounds over the next year, they're going to be, that duo in itself will be scary. And then you add Jaron and Jaden, who can kind of play a roaming linebacker / safety and kind of be nightmares for an offense. Then that group of 4, and then you include a defensive line that seems to be becoming just monstrous. This defense is going to stop looking like what we've seen, where we're giving up 3rd and 15 to, what's his name from Baylor? Can't remember the quarterback's name, but he shouldn't be scrambling for 15 yards on a 3rd down. We're not going to see that anymore. At least I wouldn't expect it here in hopefully not next year ever, but definitely in 2 years when we have this mix of different talent everywhere.
Is that Gary Bohannon? Is that who it was that was giving it to us? Yeah,
it's just absolutely murdering our linebackers last year.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I absolutely agree. That should be coming to an end. I don't know how many 4-3 type base formations that Brent Venables runs. I need to probably go look at some more Clemson games. But if he runs the 4-3 at all, or that's going to be a nasty trio for years to come, with 4 down linemen and those 3 as your linebackers. And then, that Jaden Rowe probably at safety or something. That's a lot of fun. That's a lot of speed on defense to think about. That, should absolutely eradicate those 3rd and 24 scrambles that we seem to love to give up, or 3rd and 19. That was just a backbreaker for years. As far as special teams goes, I like to think that we have 11 deep that could play special teams, just to where we don't have to use Kip Lewis's red shirt, because I would also like to see him keep his red shirt this year. I just don't see, of the 3, and as you guys have said a bunch of times now, he does need to develop a little bit more before he, at least in the immediate future, is going to get time over Jaren Kanak or Kobe McKenzie. So I think the red shirt would be the best possible thing for him and the Sooners. So yeah, let's hope that's what happens.
Yeah, he will. I mean, I believe it. I think he's the type of kid that has been kind of overlooked most of his life, because I remember when he first committed, he was a 3-star according to 247 for a very long time. And it wasn't until he put together this senior season where he had 108 tackles and 20 tackles for loss and 6 sacks before he earned that 4th star. I think he's been someone that's been overlooked, not just by us, because I'm not going to lie. We talked high about Jaren Kanak and Kobe McKenzie, and we're high on all the recruits anyway, but Kip Lewis, never, when he committed, I felt like it never really moved the needle until we started, like, at least for me, looking more and more into like his background and his play. I feel like he's got just as much potential as the other three. I think, or as the other two. I think he can be just as good when it's all said and done as the other two linebackers that came in here. I mean, a couple of them are, Kanik is probably the most ready to play. Kobe McKenzie is close. And I know he's a little bit behind, but if he could put together 3 great years of playing, and we might be able to look back and be like, wow, that trio of linebackers, they were all equally did things a little bit differently, but they were all 3 terrific.
I think unlike the last staff with Grinch and those idiots, I think we can confidently say about these 3, when it comes to Kip Lewis, Kobe McKenzie, and Jaden Kanik, that they're all going to be very, very well coached by people who know what they're doing, especially with Venables. Linebackers is like his forte. He knows what he wants these guys to do, where he wants them to be. I'm sure he's got all the ins and outs, all the technique. They are going to be very, very well coached linebackers, and they all have the ability to be great players. I think the one who really buys in and is a sponge, as they say, and just soaks it all in and trusts in the coaching staff and trusts that they're going to make them better are going to be the ones that ultimately see the field the most during their tenure. Because they all have the talent and the size and the speed. And they're all going to have the same development with Schmidt. They're all going to have the same coaching. I think it comes down to who buys in the most with these 3 is going to be the ones that really ultimately reap the ultimate reward and get all the playing time and draft, status and stuff like that.
I don't know, man. I'm just excited for these 3 to actually be on the field together. I think the spring game, hopefully, I don't know what the roster is going to be, but I'm really hoping that those 3 are on the same team, because that will be good insight, but it'll be exciting to watch those 3 freshmen play together versus the three guys that are more likely to get playing time this year, and Deshaun White and Ogwebu, and who else would be the linebacker? That's maybe Stripling or Stutzman. Yeah. Sorry about forgetting Stutzman, but I think those 3 veterans versus these 3 young guys is going to be a fun competition to watch in the spring game.
Yeah. It's, the last thing I'll kind of say about him, because we've all talked highly of him and, we think he can become a great linebacker for OU. I think he's also a guy we're not going to have to worry about that's going to hop in the transfer portal quickly. I don't see him, after the whole deal with the old staff leaving, he never at least made it seem like he was even thinking about leaving. He seems really solid to the school. I think he would really go through multiple years, try his best, put in the work, and it still didn't work. I feel like he would stay for at least 3 years before he would even consider doing that, which I think is huge. You need guys that are program guys, and this trio of linebackers will take us into the SEC, and it'll be pretty cool to see. Now, I don't know how long Stutzman will stay. If he puts together another great year, he might just play, by the end of his junior year, he might be done the way he played last year. If he takes the next few steps, Stutzman's going to be gone, but these 3 will take us to the SEC, maybe with a grad transfer to help out, but these 3 guys are going to be really leaned on heavily. And I think the sky's the limit for him. Jose, do you have any final thoughts? Brandon, any final thoughts?
No, I definitely agree with that last take you had. Sky's the limit for these guys. It's exciting stuff.
And when you're getting coached by Venables, and I don't feel like if you're not playing well for Venables, you're going to have a hard time going to play for anywhere else. So the Venables will get the best out of them, and we'll see what happens. Brandon, do you have an individual challenge for everyone?
Yeah, so on these Whodats, I like to keep it relatively simple. We all on this show predicted a red shirt for him with a bright future outlook, in the long term. Do you guys agree with us? Do you guys think Kip Lewis is going to start this year? Do you think he's going to start next year? What is his outlook for you guys for this season and beyond? Yeah.
All right. Well, be sure if you want to win a couple more spring ticket, pairs of spring tickets. We've got general admission this week, and it'll be in the suite next week. Be sure to do that individual challenge And then also subscribe, turn the notification bell, follow us on Twitter, or like us on Facebook. And that way, comment that you've done it, and then comment the in-video challenge as well. We're getting close to 3,800 subscribers. Help us out, get us there. We really appreciate it. We're growing, and we're going to keep this rolling, going in all summer long. We're going to keep bringing you all the Sooner content that you can take. And we'll get some recruiting videos out to you guys this week after this huge weekend, and we'll catch you next time.